What's up, guys? I am, as always, still waiting on Miata turbo parts. I still don't have a standalone ECU, so I cannot install any of the parts that I do have, like this cracking kit. There's a manifold over there. Got some injectors inside. I've bitched about it for a long time. I'm sure you're sick of hearing it. Anyway, still waiting on parts there. But I did buy some car parts for the mighty Prius here. I bought a dash camera after nearly being murdered multiple times just driving around the last week or so. I don't know what's going on, but like seriously 3 times inside of 3 days, somebody just straight pulled out in front of me. I was like, you know, I should probably have a dash camera just for these very occasions. So I went with a Viofo A119V3. Also got the hardwire kit, and I also got a 128 gig SD card, a high endurance one. So hopefully that will work out. Also ended up picking up the CPL filter. I'll get to that in a second though. I went with the Viofo A119V3 because I had one of their cameras before and I liked it. Good bang for the buck. They're not prohibitively expensive. They're a little over $100, under 200 with everything, including an SD card and all that, probably 150-ish. So that worked pretty well. Because I'm probably going to buy a new car soon, and then I'll get one of those dual camera things that shows the front and the rear. But for now, I figure this will work. I didn't do a video of the installation because it is ridiculously easy. The 3-wire kit comes with, as you would imagine, 3 wires. The black one is ground, the red one is 12-volt constant, and the yellow one is 12-volt switch, so that's simple enough. Stuck it on my windshield using the GPS mount and ran the wires up the A-pillar across the headliner to where everything's nice and hidden and, you know, looks very inconspicuous. I originally tried it on just the default mode. Oh yeah, I did go ahead and upgrade it to version 2.0 firmware, which just came out, which adds a few things, which I'll get to in a minute. So I originally tried it on just the default mode, which is 1440p, 30 frames per second. That looks pretty good. Overall, it looks decent. I did notice that if I was like sitting somewhere where traffic was going by me, like, you know, at a sharp angle, like in other words, going directly in front of me, like sideways, like sitting in an intersection when traffic is going by at a high rate of speed, there was a decent amount of motion blur, which doesn't really matter because realistically, it's not really what a dash cam is for capturing. It's going to be somebody either coming towards you or, you know, going the same way as you or whatever. But still, I figured I would try out the 60 frames per second. That looks good, but it looks terrible at night. I'm guessing because they have to go with a much faster shutter speed. You know, you're taking 60 frames in a second instead of 30, so your shutter speed has to be faster. I'm guessing because of the faster shutter speed, they're really jacking up the ISO in order to get like usable images at night, and it just looks like completely a mess to me. If you only drive during the daytime, maybe use 1440, 60 frames per second, but for me, I went back to 30. I also tried the HDR, and it looked fine during the day. I couldn't really tell much difference. At night, you can definitely see more, but it's kind of the same situation. It looks like their HDR at night is just absolutely maxing out the ISO on the sensor, so it is super noisy and grainy. I didn't really feel like it mattered that much, so I turned HDR off. So I arrived at using the 1440p setting at 30 frames per second with no HDR. I did do the parking mode, which is actually pretty awesome. I've actually been parking my car backwards in the driveway so it faces out into the little cove that I live in, and using it as kind of a secondary home security camera because there's not much traffic, so it doesn't, you know, run the battery down or anything. Oh, also, on the 3-wire hardwire kit, there's a switch on the side where you can set the voltage at which it cuts off. I think it's 12.4, 12.2, 12 even, and 11.8. I went with 12.2 because honestly, I don't really feel like parking mode's gonna be that, I mean, it's cool to have, but like, I don't park in a situation where someone's really gonna mess with my car and I'm gonna need that footage, and I would rather have a car that cranks when I come out to it. So that's what I went with on there, but yeah. So far, my recommended settings, at least on version 2.0, would be 1440p, 30 frames per second, HDR off. And yeah, looks pretty damn good. The CPL filter also did make a very big difference. On the Prius in particular, I was getting a bunch of, because of the shape of the windshield, I was getting a ton of like reflections and stuff, and it was very disorienting. The CPL filter totally knocked that out, and also just like polarized sunglasses, it makes the colors more saturated and punchy, which is at least nice to look at, because my secondary use for this camera will be to maybe have some B-roll for my food and travel channel, which I will put up on the screen right about now. Assuming travel is ever a thing again, it seems like it'd be kind of cool if you're driving through somewhere scenic to have your dash cam footage as like B-roll or something. No, that's about it. But yeah, I will drop links to the camera and hardwire kit and CPL filter and SD card that I'm using down below. But overall, I'm very happy with this setup. I think it's a pretty good, decent, basic setup that has more than acceptable image quality and doesn't break the bank. So that's what I went with. Hopefully, at some point in the near future, I will receive a package containing a Mega Squirt, and then I'll be able to do some more exciting car stuff. Until then, have fun. Holler.